it's time for another Rufus Opus update. Hey everyone, I need to make an announcement about the Restoring Your Soul course that I had scheduled for in September. I am not going to be selling any more of those. If you've already purchased one, do expect an email here shortly. We're going to be talking about what next steps with that. But I was talking to Jason Miller about this, and he brought up a couple points. The first one, and the main one for me, was that there's legal liability to saying that you're offering counseling in the state of Washington. You can't just say that without having a certification, a license, and an ability to practice. And he just brought up the legal liability. I looked it up, and it turns out I would need to have a 501c3 license. I would need to go through training. I would need to actually, be a counselor before I started counseling people on how to overcome their trauma, whether it's a 16th century method of planetary magic or not. So that is something that we can't, I don't want to expose myself to that risk, but also those laws are in place because honestly, you don't need therapy from somebody who has an internet connection and a few good ideas about some really old ideas, right? It's not therapy, right? And I tried to make that really clear in the PDF that this whole thing was supposed to be not therapy. It's supposed to augment therapy that you're having with an actual therapist, an accredited counselor who knows what they're doing, who can put you in touch with people who can prescribe meds as needed. When I developed all this stuff and I put it all together, I was going through this magic, but I was also talking to my therapist every week, and I was being prescribed medications to deal with my issues. And I'm at a nice balance point now. I've got everything going good for me. It's very much the result of my magic, but it's also very much my relationship with my counselor and the steady treatment of my disorders, right? It's not like this is going to be the solution for things. And I made sure that was pretty clear. But one of the things Jason pointed out to me is that everybody doesn't have great insurance, and everybody isn't going to necessarily have a therapist that they're going to, but just about everybody can watch these videos or buy a course online, and they might substitute that for real legit therapy and say, oh, I can do that. And I know enough pig-headed magicians like myself who will very much decide that that's what they can do. And he's right. That's not what this is for. And the problem with magic, I mean, of all the people who come to magic, when you first come into the occult, I've been teaching classes for years now, right? And you get a class of students in, and most of them are just there to read and learn, and that's cool. And once they read it, they feel like they've done the work. Some people start doing the work, and they start integrating these powers, and they actually start developing it, and it's great, and they're doing great. Of those people, some of them might have some kind of mental issues that they need to deal with that they haven't addressed. The forces that they release can make things unstable in their life. The 7 spheres and 7 days stuff that I used to do was a lot of fun, but it was also very, very hypomanic, and it was very much about energizing yourself and watching everything burn because it needs to burn because it's on fire and it's negative and that's great and everything, and you're working out your issues, but meanwhile your life is on fire. All these things that you don't need are just combusting. You're not like identifying the problem, removing it in a way that doesn't harm anybody. You're just burning it up. It's great, right? It's quick, it's efficient, and then you have all this scorched earth that's all ready to receive seeds, but the problem is that those are the people that you love. Those are the people that you care about, that you're setting on fire and stuff. And you also hurt yourself. You hurt your career, you hurt your reputation, you hurt yourself in the long run. And these are all things you don't pay attention to when you're like hyper focused on the right now stuff, which comes with immaturity and hypomania, right? So the thing is about the magic is it can release this energy in your life that makes you lose it, right? It can push you to a place where you have to confront these things, which is good. You need to be healthy, but you don't want to do that from inside a padded cell. right? You don't want to have to be put away because you're a danger to yourself or others. So in a normal class of people, just there to study the great work or to study the holy guardian angel of those people, a couple one or two might have some issues come out of that. If I advertise, though, to an audience that specifically has already been through trauma and doesn't have a lot of experience with magic and isn't in a relationship with a therapist and hasn't been diagnosed to see if they need medications and isn't going through all this process, but we do know that they have trauma and they have been through trauma, and you release all these planetary forces in it, it's almost guaranteed to burn out a few people, right? At least a few people. It's not a great idea when you think about it. And I understand like the whole problem with this approach to things, but at the same time, this is a really powerful way to actually heal yourself, right? So I do want to explore this more. I'm looking at ways to turn this into something that isn't likely to be dangerous for people at all, that can be performed within the context of other things, ways to ensure that the people who are actually participating in it are getting the help and treatment that they need outside of this process, but also just, like forgetting about the whole focus on trauma of all of this and turning it into more of a focus on something like the great work, the process that as you're going through it, you are able to integrate those forces at a slower pace and build up your stamina so that when you get to the point where you're ready to start dealing with those things, I mean, number one, you're smart enough and wealthy enough to get yourself into a place where you have a good therapist and, you're safe enough to start exploring those things without harming other people, right? So it's just a way of sort of integrating these things a little bit more rationally, a little bit more compassionately, and a little bit more with a little bit more wisdom and maturity. So that's where things are at with that. I hope that everybody understands. Do look in your emails. Fortunately, there weren't very many people that had purchased the course. I have pulled the PDF for now from my website. I think I've gotten all the links removed from all the places that could have gotten to it previously, and I think I've updated all the verbiage around that. So, but if you did pay for the course already, do expect some emails explaining next steps, probably refunds, perhaps if I can offer you something else in exchange, or anyway, we'll talk about different options that are available. So let's do that, and I will be in touch. Of course, do feel free to ping me about anything. If you're going through any kind of trauma stuff, like this has got you all hyped up and excited to get this done, and now you feel like you're not going to be able to do it, feel free to reach out to me, because I've got a therapist friend who is my therapist, right? And he might be able to help put you in touch with somebody who can do the stuff that can get you prepared to have this work for you and not work against you. And that's my entire intent with this whole process, is to heal people, or to help people get healed from their issues the way I was able to. But what works for one does not work for everyone. This is something that NLP tries to teach, and it's crap. It's not going to work for you the way it works for me, and me pretending that it will is only going to hurt people. So let's not assume the worst, but let's not make things bad that we don't have to. Let's avoid the obvious pitfalls, shall we? So anyway, do feel free to reach out to me about anything if you have any questions, and further updates as events warrant. Oh, and by the way, do expect there to be some kind of great work course that is going to come out of all this stuff. So, and a system that actually integrates it a little more carefully. So, do not despair. It's just step one was, I guess, sort of getting the ideas out there, and step two will be what comes next. All right, take care.